Colton with DiscountJuicers.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and what we're going to do today is we're going to make green juice in the Omega Vert Juicer. Now, the vertical single auger style juicers are my favorite juicers in the whole wide world to use to make combination fruit and vegetable based juices. Today we're specifically making what's called a green juice. Why? Because it contains leafy green vegetables. So leafy green vegetables come in many shapes and sizes, from spinach, collard greens, kale greens, even romaine leaves can be considered green leafy vegetables. You could be juicing things like purslane or miner's lettuce or dandelions or more wildish greens. And I encourage you guys always to do a leafy green juice each and every day. Leafy greens are some of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. That means they have the highest level of nutrition, including phytochemicals, phytonutrients, vitamins, and minerals. As compared to the calories, they're very low calorie foods, so this may help you out if you're trying to lose weight and get a lot of nutrition in, but not a lot of calories. The problem with junk food in this day and age is that junk food is high in calories, but low, very low in nutrition. So I want you guys to eat a nutrient-dense diet, including leafy green vegetables and the fresh fruits, as always the best things to include more of in your diet. So today we're going to simply juice literally 1 pound of leafy greens in the juicer. This will produce about only 1 small cup of juice, and I'll be able to now access the 1 pound of greens that most people don't eat in a day in my juice, and I'll be able to get that into me. Besides the leafy greens, which can taste kind of hard and harsh, especially if you're not used to it, I encourage you only to make a 25% of your glass of leafy green juice, and then the last 75% of your glass a nice mild other vegetables and even some fruits. So what we're going to do today for the remainder of the glass are some of my favorite items to juice, including a whole head of celery. And celery is actually rich in electrolytes. It has a nice salty flavor, so it's going to make the green juice taste very good. In addition, we got a nice cucumber. Cucumbers are great. People call them vegetables, but technically they're fruits because they contain seeds. But they're great fruits because they're nice and water rich and have a nice mild neutral flavor. Of course, we got also to add in there some apples. The apples are going to add some nice water in there as well, but also a nice sweetness, especially if you're not used to drinking those dark green leafy vegetables. Now, I like the Omega Vert Juicer because literally it is auto feeding provided you cut the produce properly. So with all this produce, because we are using the baby leafy greens, we don't need to do any cutting to those guys. If we did have regular sized spinach or kale or collard greens, we would have to cut them into 1/8-inch pieces. On the celery, you will need to cut the celery for optimal juicing, so we're going to go ahead and cut that into little 1/8-inch pieces. And the apples and the cucumber, as long as they'll fit in the chute, you can actually put them in. So we just got to cut those into a couple slices. So first, it's always important when using a vertical single R machine is to rotate your produce that you're juicing properly. You always want to start with the softest produce item first, and then get up into the more firm things that are going to help push that soft stuff through. So with that, that means we're going to start with the spinach. So what we're going to actually do before we even turn the machine on is we are going to preload our juicer. And we're going to go ahead and put a bunch of spinach in this feed chute so that we will be ready to start juicing once we turn it on. Got a bunch of spinach stuffed in the feed chute. Next, we're going to go ahead and simply slice up some of these vegetables, including the cucumber. All we're going to have to simply do for the cucumber is cut it lengthwise into 4s, and that should pretty much do it for that. On the apples, I like to just cut them into a few pieces so that they'll fit in the machine. One of the things I want to encourage you guys to do is to remove the little stem. Remove the stems of the apples. This may get caught up in the little ejection port because it does need to make a right angle turn as the pulp is coming out of the machine, and this will definitely clog it up. So take those out. So we got all these apples cut up into some pieces that are going to fit in the feed chute. Next, we're going to do the next 2 here. Real simple, real easy, just a few slices of the knife. We'll cut them up, take off that stem. And once again, last apple, it has already been destemmed at the factory, or maybe off the tree. Cut this into some pieces so we'll be all prepared to juice these apples up. Now the last thing we're going to have to do, which is going to take a little bit of time, is the celery. So On the celery here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut off the base of the celery. We want to just go ahead and compost that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the knife here and very simply just go back down and cut off like little 1/8-inch pieces. And we're just going to work our way down the celery until we're all the way to the end. This will cut up all those long fiber strings that will normally get stuck in your teeth. You know, if you're chewing it in between your teeth, these same strings will actually get stuck in the ejection port of the machine and clog your machine up. Now when this happens in the juicer, a couple things happen. Number one, your yield will go down. So actually if the juicer's clogged, the juicer's not going to work properly and your yield's going to go down. In addition, another thing that's going to happen is that you will create a much pulpier juice. So, you know, the Omega Vert already does produce a pulpier juice than most juicers, but if you use it improperly, then it's going to create an even more pulpy juice. And for most people, pulp is not something that is desirable. I'm really happy to say that with the all-new Omega VRT400, they do also include a little pulp strainer there that's going to take out some of the pulp as it comes out of the machine, or a little sieve. It's this little black thing here that's sitting on top of the catch gut, so as the juice comes out, we're taking the pulp out. So just got a few more slices of this stuff to go. Once I'm sliced up, we'll come back at you and we'll get juicing. Alright, so it looks like I got all my celery sliced up into nice little pieces. And this is the width of the celery that I've cut up. You know, it's nice and small, 1/8-inch pieces are desirable. Sometimes they're a little bit bigger, but you don't want 2-inch wide or even 1-inch wide pieces, not going to be as efficient. I guess the next thing to do, we're all ready to juice now that we have all our produce prepared, and this went relatively quickly. We're going to go ahead and start feeding in the produce in the machine. So as you know, we already preloaded our spinach. We're going to push in the spinach with something like an apple that also has a very soft texture. This will push that spinach right through the machine, and then once we do that, we're going to then follow it with a little bit of cucumber, which is also a fairly soft texture. Now it's very important when using the Omega Vert or any other vertical slow juicer is to rotate the produce you're putting in, doing the softest stuff first, and then followed by a little bit of celery that's going to help push it out. Now it would be significantly better if you always juice carrots in your vertical single auger machine, because the carrots really help push the pulp out, and the celery doesn't quite work as well, but I think we'll be able to get by with it today. So as you guys can see, we got the juice coming out over on this side. It's going through the little strainer. The foam and the pulp is being caught, and over on this side we got some of the pulp coming out, the dry pulp. We're going to go ahead and continue to feed in this spinach in the machine. Once again, we're loading this guy up with a lot of spinach, pushing it in there. And I really like how I literally do not have to use the pusher to push things in the Omega Vert. If you are using the pusher in the Omega Vert, more than likely you are feeding things in too quickly. This is a slow juicer, so we want to give this time and this time for the machine to work properly without like trying to overload it and put too many things in. Now that we got some more spinach in, once again we're going to go ahead and put a piece of apple. And go ahead and drop a cucumber in there. Let that go ahead and get juiced up. One of the things you want to keep your eye on when using the Omega Vert is actually the pulp coming out. You want to make sure that it's always still flowing. Next we're going to go ahead and put in the celery in the machine. As you guys can see, the strainer is catching a lot of foam. We're going to go ahead and shake this down just a little bit so that it does not overflow. Let's go ahead and crank some more spinach into the juicer. One of the things I like about the Omega Vert is that it is relatively quiet. It runs at a low 80 RPM, so this is going to cause a minimal amount of damage to the nutrients that are coming out of the juicer. Next, let's go ahead and throw another apple in there. Now this strainer is totally getting clogged up with all the foam and the pulp, so we're having to continually tap this guy down. At some point we may need to actually take it off. But I mean, we haven't even juiced that much stuff, and now we already got like, I don't know, 16 ounces of juice so far. I mean, when you're juicing some stuff, it really goes pretty quick. Especially when you're juicing things like cucumbers and celery that are quite water rich. Go ahead and cram some of these greens in there. Greens, once again, really important food that everybody should be including. My goal every day is to get 2 pounds of leafy greens in me, and I do count greens that have been juiced, so this will count for half of my daily goal. Alright, so one of the things that's happening here is by using the strainer on top of the catch cup, it is catching a lot of foam and a lot of pulp. So it's actually overflowing, so we're going to go ahead and put the stopper down so that the juice does not drip on the countertop here. And we're going to go ahead and take this off and kind of shake it down to get some of that juice out. And maybe see if we could like blow off some of this extra foam that's in the strainer here. Look at that, it's totally full. So you know, a better use of this might be to make all your juice inside the catch cup first, and then once you're done, then pour it through here for the final sieving. That's normally what I do. I don't normally like to operate the machines with the strainer in place, especially because of like this, it'll just get clogged up, and then all the juice and stuff is just stuck in here, and then it could actually overflow on you. Alright, so we're continuing the juice in the Omega Vert, and as you guys can see, definitely keeps and continues to fill up the little strainer that comes with the machine. I mean, this machine is definitely one of the machines that does make a lot of pulp. As long as this little basket doesn't get too cut up, I think we'll be alright. I mean, we are probably at 24 plus ounces of juice already. We've definitely juiced, not even so much produce, but made a lot of juice. Now, in general, leafy greens don't tend to produce a lot of juice, but things like the cucumber and the apples, really high water content, really do a good job. And actually, believe it or not, celery has a fair lot of juice in there as well. So as you guys can see, we're rotating the produce going in. We're just not putting all the spinach, then all the apples, then all the cucumber, and then all the celery. We're kind of putting a little bit of spinach, a little bit of apple, a little bit of cucumber, a little bit of celery. And all this keeps pushing everything through the machine. If you don't use the machine properly, it's going to back up on you, and it's not going to work optimally. I would encourage you guys to watch a video where I go into detailed specifics about how to juice properly in the Omega Vert series. It's actually called Omega Vert Best Practices. Alright, man, so it looks like we're just about done juicing here. If we go any more, we're going to overfill our catch cup here. We're going to go ahead and move this guy out. Shake this guy down a little bit, get some of that juice out of this little sieve here. I mean, yes, that did catch totally a lot of pulp, and if we look at the bottom of this thing, I mean, it is pretty pulped up. So we're going to go ahead and move that over to this side. So now we're going to go ahead and show you guys what we got here. We got a nice, delicious celery, cucumber, spinach, apple juice right here, pouring out in our little cup there. But look at that nice consistency, virtually pulp free by using that strainer. Wow, that's a recipe you must try. It's definitely one of my favorites, using the baby spinach with the celery, the cucumber, and the apple. Delicioso. I love it. Hopefully you guys learn a little bit more about the Omega Vert. My favorite juicer, once again, to juice combination juices is the vertical single auger style machines. Definitely encourage you guys to make a green juice each and every day to get your fill of vitamins and minerals and the phytochemicals. It's unfortunate that most Americans simply do not eat enough leafy green vegetables each and every day. And the juicer is an appliance that will allow you to include more fruits and vegetables in your diet, especially those important leafy green vegetables that oftentimes get neglected. And guess what? It tastes good too. Even your kids will drink it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Once again, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors. Alright, this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and what we're going to do today is share with you guys the latest and greatest Omega juicers. And what we're going to do is actually compare one to the other to share